types of xenomorphs that we have observed some terrifying alien forms in fiction over the past few decades, but not many could compete with the brutal nature of the xenomorph. Ridley Scott's classic film from 1979 introduced us to these nasty and hostile species, and since then we have seen them in various forms. The xenomorph has now become one of the most iconic monsters, and each new addition to the Alien franchise adds something more to the creature. They unveil new forms and new features of the species that we have not seen before and contribute to the deep mythology and designs of this merciless being. It's been over 40 years since H.R. Giger and Ridley Scott introduced the monster, and since then it continuously changes and destroys the lives of those unfortunate enough to come into contact. In this video, we will explore the different types of xenomorphs and the stages of the species, if you want, and it's time to revisit the scariest aliens in cinema history. Before we dive into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you enjoy our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin. Egg. This is often considered the first stage in the life cycle of the xenomorph. This stage is also known as the ovomorph and resembles an egg-shaped capsule. Inside, there is a facehugger, which is often considered the first stage in the life cycle of the xenomorph. A queen lays them, and sometimes the metamorphosis process on a victim also produces them. The egg is almost lifeless and is more of a vessel, which contains the real threat from within. But there is more to this state than meets the eye. It is believed that the facehugger and the egg exist in a symbiotic relationship. Their greatest ability is to quickly detect a potential host in the vicinity. They have a rudimentary central nervous system that allows them to sense a nearby victim. It may also be the case that the skin of the egg contains some sensory organs. At the moment a host body is determined, the top of the egg opens like a petal and the facehugger leaps out to latch onto the victim. When an egg is produced, it already contains a fully formed facehugger and is always ready to be launched at the victim. The egg is quite large, about 2.5 feet tall, and these brownish-black leathery eggs appear white and gray. When it is old, the functioning of this state suggests that the egg is not just a simple vessel, but a complete organism. It is surprisingly durable, and when an egg falls to the ground, it bounces back up instead of breaking. The facehugger remains safely inside, even when gravity is 3 times stronger than that of Earth. It is also equally challenging to cut open one of these eggs, as there is a defense mechanism that sprays acid out with every incision. At one point, the eggs were seen surrounded by a protective mist, which even damaged the communication system. Normally, a single egg contains 1 facehugger, but there have been cases where up to 4 were found inside. These are hyperfertile eggs, and it is somewhat an evolution of the normal species. The ideal incubation takes place in conditions that are hot and humid, and if necessary, the egg can safely harbor the facehugger for thousands of years. However, there is ultimately an expiration date for the egg, and after a certain period, the egg dies. Facehugger. There's a saying that if a facehugger comes onto your face, it is better to kill yourself because the fate otherwise is much worse. This is the first stage of the xenomorph species, and it comes from the egg. The goal of the facehugger is to somehow implant the chestburster within the living host. The facehugger is not really very powerful, as all it can do is spit acid to gain access to the host. It relies more on a stealth attack than anything else. If the victim is somehow immobilized, that certainly helps the situation. The facehugger phase has a short lifespan, for once its task is completed, it perishes. The creators have given the facehugger a rather unique appearance. It has skeletal-like hands that are fused together and a peculiar spiny tail that enables the creature to leap powerfully. The tail is so strong that it can also strangle the victim by the neck. This creature has 8 legs and can crawl at a considerable speed. The underside of the facehugger resembles human female genitalia and possesses the ability to cling to its victim without releasing its grip. Its strength is such that it could tear through the skin of the skull, making it nearly impossible to remove once it is latched onto the head. If the facehugger senses external forces attempting to dislodge it, it reacts accordingly. Then it will immediately kill the host from the bottom of its body. A proboscis is extended into the host's throat, and this helps. The facehugger implants a certain sedative in the host in the next phase that puts them in a comatose state, as it is not very powerful on its own and depends on stealth. The size and agility assist the creature inside the egg. They are inert and lifeless, but the moment a host body is detected, it springs into action. They love the element of surprise in their attacks, but they are also fast enough to pursue a fleeing victim. The only downside of this creature is that they can survive outside the egg for at most 120 hours. If their host dies, they detach immediately and begin to search for a new one. There have been some cases where we have seen the facehugger in action, even when it was submerged. The creature has shown clear signs of intelligence, and with such versatility, it is no surprise. There are only a few cases in which the hosts manage to free themselves from the royal facehugger. This is a unique variant of the facehugger, and it is also known as the super facehugger. This creature can implant an embryonic queen, and this explains the confusion about how queen xenomorphs are produced. One possible explanation could be that the host is impregnated with a royal chestburster. The royal facehugger is like an enhanced version of the species because they are able to implant multiple embryos in multiple hosts before they die. The other regular xenomorph embryos would have to protect the infant queen until she is vulnerable. The royal facehuggers also emerge from the eggs laid by queens, but they are much larger than usual. They have a special armor and a serrated tail, making them more than capable defenders. These creatures have webbed feet, and in the comic versions, they are usually depicted with spikes on their backs. Under normal circumstances, a royal facehugger can impregnate two separate victims with chestbursters, one of which would be the infant queen, while the other would be the protective xenomorph. They can also survive longer than regular facehuggers without impregnating the victim. The royal facehugger is not seen for long on screen, but it is clear that the creature dies after successfully impregnating the hosts. Initially, it was intended for Alien 3 to have a longer role for the royal facehugger, but ultimately they decided to change it to a regular one. They have a much more extensive story in the comic versions, and we especially love their inclusion in Alien vs. Predator. The deadliest of the species, the royal facehugger is often believed to be more intelligent than the regular facehuggers, and their ability to stay undercover effectively proves the concept of chestburster. It is called a Stage 2 xenomorph, and it is the sucking form that is the third stage in the life cycle of the creature. It is possibly one of the most horrific pregnancy methods, and it is implanted in the chest cavity of a host by a facehugger. Once it matures, it emerges and bursts the victim's chest open, and the host body experiences the most brutal death imaginable. They start to feel cramps and soon turn into uncontrollable convulsions before the creature finally emerges. The chest bursters aren't necessarily huge, and they're only a foot tall and almost 2 feet tall in terms of their appearance. Breast bursters are like big worms. They have metal teeth and a strong tail that allows them to move at great speed. Some also possess a sort of arms, but this is usually not the case. There is a theory that suggests that when the gestation period is longer, the arms are present at birth, but a shorter period leads to stumps instead of arms. There is another gruesome situation where the chest bursters are unable to break out of the host body. This may be because the rib cage is too strong to break through, and in such cases, the host dies due to the presence inside the body. Eventually, the creature breaks out of the body when it is strong enough. However, if the host dies too early during the developmental process, this can be fatal for the embryo. The chestburster is typically introduced directly into the host, but there have been a few rare cases where the young xenomorphs have been introduced directly into the host. It then develops from the genetic material of the host, and the physical characteristics are determined to some extent by the host. The intelligence and instincts of the adult xenomorph are also influenced by the body of the host. They have an incredibly short gestation period, but this is not the same for all beings. The queen and the chestburster, for example, have longer gestation periods that can last several days. This stage of the xenomorph's life cycle is certainly one of the most vulnerable, as they have few defenses compared to their adult phase. The warrior, one of the strongest types of xenomorphs, is used as one of the first lines of attack. This is a stage where the xenomorph has left the chestburster stage. They are now about 8 feet long and possess a deadly tail that is 14 to 15 feet long. Their powerful secondary jaw can fatally wound victims, and their strength is simply incredible. These beings are so extraordinarily strong that they can effortlessly break through metal pressure doors. They are also masters of blending into their surroundings, making them often visible only when it is too late. The warriors possess strong heads that are used to ram into targets, and these are powerful enough to incapacitate even a Yautja hunter. In situations where an extraterrestrial warrior is killed in combat, it explodes in a stream of molecular acid that can still incapacitate an enemy. Their acidic blood can cause extreme injuries, and if someone is close to the dying warrior, there is no escape possible. They are also reasonably intelligent and are aware of the acidic nature of their blood. There have been observed cases where the creature has utilized these qualities to get its way in difficult situations. The creatures have been observed to be able to plan their attacks, making their intelligence a key component, mixed with their aggression. The story of the warrior is quite interesting, and its portrayal in the films has evolved over time. The later additions to the franchise showcased cloaked versions of the story, and these tales can, in addition to their formidable strength, also be utilized for navigation through water. These creatures are not only extremely strong, but also surprisingly agile, with various types of warrior xenomorphs existing. Some individuals believe that the warriors are essentially adult drones, which may very well be true. The queen, the mother, and a powerful leader of a xenomorph hive belongs to the larger xenomorphs that are observed. They are not only larger than the average xenomorph, but also significantly stronger and more intelligent. In fact, they have exhibited traits of vengeance and complex thought, which are completely absent in the typical xenomorph. The queen possesses problem-solving abilities, and her behavior is not merely instinctual. They are fierce fighters in their own right, but you will rarely see a queen engage in battle. Her primary task is to lay eggs, while the workers do all the heavy lifting. The queen is also responsible for overseeing the defenses of the hive and its overall management. When this creature lays eggs, she is nearly immobile, making it crucial that the hive is well protected. She has authority over the other xenomorphs in the hive and demonstrates both her intelligence and leadership qualities. The queen is almost double the size of a drone and also has longer arms. She possesses double jaws, armed with sharp teeth, and a second set of arms beneath her chest. She can grow up to almost 4.5 meters tall, and some can even grow larger. The body is able to perceive any threat in the vicinity, thanks to the sensory system, and the creature is also protected by a sturdy armor. The mesoskeleton is so durable that it is bulletproof and can only be breached by armor-piercing ammunition. The queen is usually black or bluish-black and is an excellent fighter, except when she is laying eggs. This creature can lay up to 15 eggs per nest, and during this period, the others are expected to protect their queen, no matter how violent they may seem. These beings are quite caring for their offspring. There have been some cases where someone threatened to destroy the queen's eggs and managed to escape with this threat. These creatures live significantly longer than other xenomorphs, and their special adaptations allow them to thrive under all conditions. Even in harsh cold conditions, they can pause their metabolism through a form of hibernation. The runner is also known as the dog alien, and as the name suggests, these creatures are incredibly fast. These xenomorphs function as sentries and are capable of spitting acid from their mouths. Physically, they differ from a human offspring of xenomorphs, simply because the xenomorphs take on some aspects of the host. They can walk or stand on their hind legs and are considered the fastest among the xenomorphs. However, although the runners can outrun most species, they're not equal in strength when compared to drones. Therefore, their speed is their greatest asset, and they must use it intelligently to overcome their enemy. They also possess a strong tail that can paralyze the victim and can also be used to attack. The chess pieces are not always born fully formed, but the runner always is. This simply grows in size after birth, and also in intelligence. They use their ability to spit acid from a distance and strategize their attacks so that they do not have to confront the enemy directly. They have also mastered the trick of a perfect ambush and attack when the enemy least expects them. They also wait until the victim is alone before launching an attack, as the runner would stand no chance against a large group. Despite all these qualities, however, the runner is not seen as the smartest among the xenomorphs. While their intelligence may be in question, there is no doubt about the usefulness of a runner, especially when it comes to short and quick attacks. The name runner was first coined in Aliens vs. Predator 2, and we have also seen it in Alien movies. There was some controversy surrounding the contributions of H.R. Giger and the designs of this creature. Because his work was undermined by the studio, Ridley Scott was quick to give credit for his contribution to the project. Newborn is actually a human xenomorph mutant that resulted from some experiments conducted by the American military. The queen that was produced somehow became infected with human DNA, and the end result was Newborn. Ripley 8 was used as the host for the queen, and the Newborn considered her as its true mother. Eventually, she was also killed by Ripley. The birth process of a newborn was also very interesting. The queen set up a hive within the waste tank, and the newborn developed rapidly. Upon birth, it became hostile and tore off the front of its head. It regarded Ripley 8 as its mother, but she managed to escape. However, the newborn pursued her all the way to the Betty, quickly causing a wave of violence and death. When the call was recorded, Ripley 8 managed to convince the newborn to let the call go and put down. The creature had a more human appearance than others. It did not undergo the usual stages of birth and was twice the size of a warrior. It was also extremely powerful and lacked some common features of xenomorphs, such as the tail or inner jaw. It even had human-like teeth instead of the metallic teeth we see in xenomorphs. There was also another important difference between the newborn and the other xenomorphs. It could feel emotions that range from anger to sadness. There was a childish character in this monster, and it had almost a morbid, cruel innocence. The newborn had a strange devotion to Ripley 8 and even followed her commands. She used this to distract the creature and smashed a hole in the window of the spaceship. The sudden decompression was strong enough to blow the newborn into space, and it was killed. You know that a xenomorph will be deadly when it has a yautja host. It has similar physical characteristics, such as the jaws and the dreadlocks. These dreadlocks serve as a sensory organ, much like whiskers on cats, and they also assist in their quick reflexes. The Pedalian is a deadly fighter, and their strength is far superior to that of human-descended xenomorphs. Their extreme strength is due to their powerful host, and the only good thing about them is that they are rare. Their fighting style is quite unique because they combine the best of both worlds, the strength of the yautja and the agility of aliens. They are also known for their independence and do not necessarily operate according to the colony, but that does not necessarily imply that. They show a lot of intelligence compared to others. Their hunting style resembles that of the yautja, and they are known for taking trophies from their victims. However, the yautja view these creatures as an insult to their kind. We have seen this being in the film franchise, in movies like Alien vs. Predator and Aliens vs. Predator, Requiem. We have seen various versions of the Predalien, but the most common variant resembles a larger version of the xenomorph warrior. Their jaws can be used as powerful weapons and are present in the creature from the chestburster stage. The Predalien is significantly larger than the predators and the human xenomorphs, and they can grow up to 9 to 10 feet tall. There is a fighting type of the Predalien that occurs more frequently, and they can easily overpower the yautja. It would take someone exceptional among the yautja to defeat one of these. Some of these creatures have even adapted to conquer. The threat of the yautjas, where their main role in the hive is that of a protector, and they are much better able to inflict damage that is far more severe than that of the warriors, begins with the deacon, which shows similarities to the xenomorph but also has some clear differences. Although it is bipedal, the deacon has no tail, and although its skin has the texture of a xenomorph, it is clearly of a different color. This creature has humanoid teeth, and the shape of its head differs greatly from that of a xenomorph. For all these reasons, the deacon is often considered a preliminary species of xenomorph. When it bursts from its host, it uses its pointed skull to exert the necessary pressure, and it does not bite or scratch through the ribcage like the others. Many theories suggest that the deacon is an entirely new species that was implanted by a being known as the trilobite into an engineer host. This creature appears in appearance to the facehugger stage of the xenomorph and even dies after implanting the embryo in the engineer. When the deacon emerges from its host, it comes out fully formed. However, there are some contradictions with this theory, as we have not really seen a fully grown deacon yet. It is possible that an adult deacon looks very different from a xenomorph. The original idea was to create a creature that resembled the normal xenomorph, but ultimately changes were made to make it a clearly new being. The blue skin color was added so that the creature contrasted against the dark background and the details could be more visible to the audience. These endoparasitic extraterrestrial species are also quite different from the usual xenomorphs, but they share some similarities. The neomorphs have a similar gestation period and their appearance varies depending on the animal they originated from. For example, when they have a human host, the creatures are born with developed arms and legs and resemble a runner. They slowly develop a bipedal posture, and their fleshy spiked tail serves as a handy weapon. The neomorph has another important difference from the xenomorphs, namely their thick and yellow non-acidic blood. These are vicious creatures that are extremely aggressive. They attack almost anyone in the vicinity and lack the intelligence typically associated with xenomorphs. They have been observed to be quite stealthy, but that's about it when it comes to their cleverness. Xenomorphs do not feed on the human flesh of their victims, but neomorphs have been seen to do so. This probably implies that meat consumption is important for their survival. The victims are thus more like prey for the neomorph. It has a life cycle of 5 stages in which it develops from the egg to the neomorph. The adult version is over 2 meters long and has a bulbous, elongated head. The physiology is inspired by the goblin shark, and Ridley Scott has suggested that the neomorph is the first generation of aliens. They also have a very short lifespan, and these creatures die within a day after their birth. However, even the corpse transforms into new egg sacs, and so the life cycle always continues. The protomorph, also known as the Planet 4 xenomorph, is a very aggressive variant of the species. These were created through some experiments, and the protomorph exhibited some basic differences from the average xenomorph. These creatures have longer limbs, and the exposed blood vessels were also something unique. They have an unusually fast growth rate, and it begins immediately after the creature emerges from the host. It doesn't take long before it matures into a fully adult being. The normal xenomorphs are somewhat smarter than these beings, but these are much more animalistic and aggressive by nature. Protomorphs are also hostile towards their xenomorph cousins, and they would attack them just like they would any other species. Their life cycle is similar to that of a xenomorph, but they have a unique ability. These beings can arise from nearly fatal injuries of another, which makes them almost indestructible. The origin of the protomorphs is shrouded in mystery, and many fans believe that David is responsible for the creature. Others believe that David simply redesigned something that the engineers created it, which was seen in Alien Covenant, and the fans were impressed by the extraordinary designs of this creature. A drone is a Phase 4 xenomorph, and it can be anything from a warrior to a soldier or a worker. They grow to quite large sizes, reaching heights of 2 to 2.4 meters with a length of 4.3 to 4.9 meters. Their powerful gripping tongues are excellent weapons and can be used to stab the enemy or to swing around. They are among the most common xenomorphs and serve as the primary defense of the community in a crisis. They also play a role in the construction of communities and search for potential hosts to reproduce. Their physical characteristics may vary, but they are all very fast and strong. Their greatest strength is a stealthy attack, but they are also quite capable in close combat situations. These creatures can spit cysts of their acidic blood at their enemy. The drone remains a powerful adversary, even when it is dead, as its body explodes in a corrosive blast that can incapacitate the enemy. Moreover, drones are typically seen as originating from human hosts and even share the bipedal body structure of humans. They are quick in their movements, and these creatures can effortlessly navigate through ventilation systems and climb walls. They are also capable of impressive leaps, and their strength is no less than that of an adult Yaoja. The drone has a defined warrior role in the colony, but also takes care of the nest when necessary. The drone is not the smartest of the group, but it possesses a comprehension ability comparable to that of a dog. When needed, it has been observed that they adapt their strategies, and they never give up in a fight, even if they lose one of their limbs. They are very capable of evolving into advanced versions of xenomorphs, but the exact nature of these changes is unknown. The Praetorian is often praised as the royal guard, and with good reason. These beasts grow to twice the size of other xenomorphs and represent one of the last stages in the life cycle of xenomorphs. These creatures are created when the population of a hive exceeds 300, and they take on a role of an army commander or the guardian of the queen. Their work area is primarily limited to the hive, and they belong to the largest xenomorph clans that have ever emerged. They're also among the strongest, and their appearance is very similar to that of the queen. They stand 3 meters tall, and only the queen looms above these creatures. Although the Praetorians are gigantic, they are still quite agile, comparable to the smaller xenomorphs. This makes them a formidable opponent, and their only shortcoming is that they are unable to climb walls or ceilings due to their heavy weight. These creatures are equipped with a shell-like skin that protects them from external attacks. They are also capable of fighting, with a single Praetorian able to defend itself against entire units of Marines. They can even match a Yaoja in terms of strength. They spit acid like some other xenomorphs, but the amount is much larger and causes more damage. While some xenomorphs require stealth for hiding, the Praetorian can launch a direct attack and tear the enemy apart. They are also extremely cunning and intelligent and will protect the queen at all costs. The only possible drawback of these powerful beasts is that if they're killed, the drones and other soldiers they command become disoriented and easily defeated. The king alien, also known as the rogue or the usurper, is a genetically modified xenomorph and the result of some experiments. The intention behind the creation of this being was to serve as the control mechanism that could be used by humans. It was meant to be the control system to manage other xenomorphs. But the plans quickly turn around. The being turned out to be nothing like planned and is simply a cruel beast that aggressively attacks enemies. This creature was enormous and quite powerful, showing no signs of control over the drones when the situation arose. Instead of a control mechanism, it turned out to be a hostile threat to the other xenomorphs and attacked the drones. Although it did not attack the people at the base, those who stood in its way were usually not spared. It generally chose to ignore other organisms, but if they seemed to pose a threat, it would attack relentlessly. It even attacked the royal guard of the queen and ultimately defeated it. The queen became embroiled in combat, and the king alien tasted defeat for the first time. It was believed that the king alien would overpower the queen, but he turned out to be not so powerful. The splatter alien is a specialized xenomorph designed for long-range attacks. It is known for attacking others by firing large amounts of acid at enemies from great distances. For this reason, the creature is also known as the Ranger. These xenomorphs are larger than runners, but the drone and warrior xenomorphs are larger in size. The colonial marines were confronted with this threat, and the acid-spitting capacity of these creatures has claimed several lives. The head crest of the spitting alien resembles that of the Queen or the Praetorians. There are several sacs in this crest that contain acid, but these also pose a threat to the creature itself. If these sacs rupture, the spitting alien will explode in an acid bath. Not only would everyone in the vicinity be fatally injured, but it would also kill the creature. Additionally, they have a powerful tail that resembles an axe, which also serves as a weapon for them. Like some of their smaller counterparts, they prefer to attack from a distance, as they can be vulnerable in close combat. The world of xenomorphs is just as complicated as it is vast. This is just a broader overview of these different types of xenomorphs, and diving into the extensive mythology can be both intriguing and exciting. And if you enjoyed our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us. If you haven't got one yet, stay safe and be safe. Thanks, everyone.